Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just
Speaking into the void.
but with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello, we are Caolan on the Interpro show, but that doesn't mean we can't still be wrong about lots of things. Let's start the show. Okay, as I said at the start, we are Caolan tonight, but we're gonna plow on ahead anyway. It was a mixed week of rugby. I think we can say mixed week of mixed weekend of rugby for the Irish provinces. Some good, some bad. We'll touch on both, and we'll maybe do a little bit at the end on what we can expect to see from the Six Nations squad. But we'll start as the weekend started, and that was with Ulster and a really phenomenal finish to their Challenge Cup pool campaign. Adam, you got to be pretty happy with that result.
Yeah, it was a phenomenal 40 minutes and last 20 seconds. But yeah, it was a great game of rugby. For like the rugby purists out there that love good attacking rugby and you love spectacular tries on both sides. I would recommend watching just even the highlights for it. But I must say, for Ulster's sake, in the first 40 minutes, it's some of the best rugby that we played this season. We were incredible. We were off the bat. We really took it to them in the first 3 minutes with Tom O'Toole scoring a try. It was phenomenal. I feel like some of our attack play and some of our back play was immense. I'd say our scrum was iffy, but Robbo on commentary kept mentioning about how Stade Francais had the best scrum in the top 14. That made a lot of sense because in the second half we did struggle with the set piece. Our line out needs a little bit of work as well. I think Tom Stewart, I don't know if any of you's noticed, but Tom Stewart, who I wish is in the Ireland squad, by the way, he sort of throws it like that. And I'm like, oh, right, okay. Like, but he's got his own wee technique to it. So I don't know if it's a throwing issue. I don't know if it's a communication issue, but I do feel like our players definitely did step up. Angus Bell was sick, so he pulled out. So Sam Crane went in. I do think he's not going to be, but I do think he's going quietly under the radar for like for Ulster and for Ireland's sake in that loosehead prop division. I know that Leinster and Munster and Connacht both all have props going on as well, but I feel like Crane is really pulling himself out there to be quietly in the background doing things right. Little bits of his scrum need improving, but I feel like every prop in World Rugby at the minute needs a little bit done to their scrums. I don't think there's necessarily such thing as a good scrummaging prop. It's whoever referee you have in the day. So, but yeah, I must say, a shout out as well to the Stade Francais tight head prop who scored his eighth try this season.
What?
He's a Georgian prop and he scored his eighth try. And one of their props came off injured and he came back on and I crapped myself. He was absolutely phenomenal. It was a joy to watch him, to be honest with you. But another thing about Ulster. Stuart McCluskey is Ireland's former centre. Robert Balakoon was back to his glittering best as well. I tend to say that a lot, but I feel like him coming back as well into the Ulster squad has made us look infinitely better as well. This is a team without Werner Koch. Whereas when we see Werner Koch on the pitch, we have a lot more. I feel like also have another like leader. I think that's where we lacked in the second half was like we went down. We subbed off Ian Henderson. We had a lot of young lads on the pitch at once. I feel like Jack Murphy was struggling to shift the ball out to the backs as fluidly as he usually is. But I do think that's down to Stade Francais' second half being so good. And that's probably why we had it. But hey, look, at the end of the day, Bryn Ward as well. A special shout out to him. He was man of the match again. I think he's had four or three appearances for Ulster, two man of the match awards. So unbelievable the work rate he's doing. It's just a joy to watch, and his brother as well. The Ward brothers this year, for Ulster, I think have been game changers essentially. To find them as well, they're homegrown, sons of an Ulster legend. It's just working out really nicely for us at the minute.
Like
Yeah,
it,
it was a really terrific. Sorry, Ben, did you want to launch right in
no, I
there?
was
Go
just going
ahead.
to say that like just on Stad, the way Stad did nothing for that first half, but Ulster didn't let them play any ball. It
Yeah.
was the Ulster performance that we've seen kind of in splurts as the season has gone on. But they started really well in the season, as we all know. URC, they were excellent. That first 40 minutes, we won't see an Irish team play that well all season. And every single thing clicked. Stad in the second half, again, they changed their set piece, as you said, it's what works for them. Ulster didn't give them a chance in the whole first half. Stad won a line out against the head. Ulster immediately sacked them on, so now what are you going to do? It
Yeah.
was fantastic. Outlook
I,
Stad thankfully made a game of it, but I'd say we're a bit nervous last 20 minutes, Adam. Just
Oh,
a tad.
very much so. But I must say, like, I know we mentioned Mark Sexton a lot, but I think Richie Murphy's coaching setup this year has worked. And having that old under 20s Ireland setup squad has made me, as an Ulster fan, feel so settled when we have something like an injury crisis come in, and we have the likes of Harry Sheridan, who is a starter now. He is a complete starter, and this season has made him a starter. But the likes of Irvine and Hopes coming through, I don't really necessarily get worried when an academy player plays, and that's so good because these guys are used to sending under 20s squads and getting them not necessarily getting the same squad every year, but getting them together, getting them in cohesion, getting them playing good rugby, and that makes Ulster so much better because, as we said, we've got a lot of money problems. We had a lot of money problems. Hopefully, with this home stretch of knockout games, we've only got one right now. We can only play what's in front of us. But hopefully that kicks us on in the green, essentially, from what we had done a couple of years ago, and we're still recovering from it.
Yeah, no, it really was like as a starting match of the day, it was something else, and I was only checking the stats there to find that um that scrummaging set there was, what I'm kind of like at least 13 scrums in the game. That's it's an
Yeah,
impressive level. So obviously Stad able to dominate that helped them a lot. But yeah, no, I mean look, it's touch and go at the end there, but I think it's a win's a win at the end of the day, and that first half was something excellent. And yeah, I thought it was an excellent point at the wards as well. McCluskey, even yeah, Balakoon certainly. As we come closer to Six Nations time,
yeah.
these are the kinds of games that you would hope they would have, and it's nice to see that they're not letting the Challenge Cup not being the Champions Cup. They're still playing excellent rugby. It's not costing them to be in that competition.
Yeah, as Ben said, I feel like if we were to play any team in that 40 minutes would be in the lead, not necessarily by that points margin, but we could probably play. I think Caolan sent a thing into the group chat saying that Ulster's attack at the minute statistically is the best in Europe points wise. I think it's something like Toulouse or something's ahead of us in terms of conversion rate and things like that. But it's things like that where we've been given, I think with Dan McFarland, we had such a structured down to the very T game plan. Whereas now we've got a structured game plan, but also we're allowed to have. It looks like the lads are having fun out there. The lads are throwing some offloads that you would be a bit annoyed about if it doesn't work out, but when they work out, it works out so nicely. And I think doing that type of game plan for any type of team, and if it works so nicely, and that's why we look really nice to watch.
Like in
Yeah.
terms of points for 22 entry, I think that was one Caolan mentioned. Ulster are
Absolutely.
in the top five teams in Europe for getting into 22 and getting scores. They're top 10 for line breaks resulting to tries. And if you'd said this about an Ulster team even last year, we'd have laughed and said, no, no way in the world. This team cannot put that kind of scores away. And fine, they're not scoring as much as Toulouse, not scoring as much as Bordeaux, but 26 nil at half time against a team who are third in the top 14 is some going.
Yeah,
Like we
no,
we
it's
can only
it.
hope that it gets rewarded again when it comes to Irish camp. We'll talk about it later on. We can only hope to see some, form gets rewarded, actually playing well for what has now been 6 months of a season
Yeah.
Yeah.
consistently.
Yeah.
Get players in there.
I think I said it before Christmas that like the strong starts to the season that Ulster have merits attention, but that if they manage to maintain it, that will demand inclusion eventually. it's 4 or 5 games in a row are good, but if you can show that there's consistency there, even when you're not your best, you can still maintain a level. That's what'll really get the attention. And going deep in this competition, I think particularly when you started in it, I think it can be sometimes more difficult for teams to drop down to get as engaged versus
None of
teams
us
that
will
were
ever
there
have to
from
worry
the
about that.
beginning.
That's fine. That won't happen.
But it's also worth, remembering that Ulster were the first Irish team to win a European Cup, but they're also the Irish team who have now gone the longest without winning. So, the URC is very much still there for them. They're in a very strong league position, but the kind of rugby they're playing in the Challenge Cup, I think they'd be very hopeful, and I should be very hopeful that there's no reason they can't go very deep in this competition. I think that could be a really good source of much needed boost for the province.
Um, to
Um,
quote to quote Jamie Heaslip, and this is the only time I'm ever doing this. It was when Ireland were going to play England in Twickenham in 2018, and I remember him posting an Instagram story, but it's like, say it in the wind, silently though, and he went Grand Slam, and I was like, I don't want to say that just yet. We need the depth, but I certainly feel hopeful. But also, I know I'm an Ulster fan, so I need to just head screwed on.
Like even looking at the URC table, they're third fine with the game in hand, but they have more bonus points than Leinster and Munster. They've got seven.
yeah.
We both have six. Points differential 92. I mean, it's stuff of dreams. I know we won't say it. We won't say Ulster are going to get top four. But
Yeah.
it's hard to see where they fall out from here. They
This
win that game in hand. They've got a 4 point gap at least over Leinster and Munster at that point.
would look like a golden Homer with a crown on his head laughing, to quote The Simpsons.
We'll get that as a
Does
picture overview at the end of the season.
Yeah, that'd be a great one. Yeah, that was a yeah. Well, there you go. So, really couldn't have had a stronger start than that. Any more on Ulster before we move on? No, we good?
We're
Okay,
I
all
don't
we'll
want to
set
move
from
jinx
a
anything.
on.
score
I'm too
perspective.
afraid to
We'll
jinx anything, to be honest with you.
we will move on to the not the second game. We're gonna jump a bit just because I'm gonna touch on this game briefly, as I think I'm the only one who actually watched it. But at the very end of the day, Connacht played their final pool round game. This competition has not really gone strictly Connacht's way. Over the course of it, they've had a couple of very, very irritating losses of games where they really feel they probably should have come away with more. The Montpellier lead was particularly galling to lose that. I will say an interesting one. I had conversations with Connacht supporters after those games, and maybe it's just the attitude of having had to put up with this kind of thing for a few years, but the attitude was very much in years gone by we wouldn't have gotten the bonus points in those games. So,
Yeah.
they're willing to take the positives where they can. But this game, for what it was worth, was an unadulterated positive for Connacht. That final result of 75-14. I was a little bit disappointed they didn't break their record, which I think is 81-7, but 75-14 is pretty good going. Um,
Like we do have
Montauban
to point out a little bit though that Montauban are levels of bad.
Montauban are
Like
not a great team. They scored twice. They scored two tries. To be fair to them, they scored their first try on the 21st minute. They scored their last on the
top
73rd minute.
14,
So
they have one win, one draw, 12 losses, and minus 368
I
points
I believe they
differential.
only
Wow.
I believe they only came up to the top 14 this season as
Yeah,
well. So they're already in a relegation fight with Perpignan. So it's
a
a
fight
it's
is
a
even a stretch for that. Like it's
yeah, it's a rough one for Montauban. But you can only play what's in
big
front of you,
rugby there.
and Connacht went out there. They'd never. It's the impressive thing about this for me is that they just never stopped. To score that many tries implies a level of application. We've seen this in other teams in other competitions where you go very far ahead at halftime. Halftime, the score was 56-7. It would be so very easy, and obviously they did not score as much in the second half as they did in the first half. But the determination to stay applied there, I think, was creditable. Scoring on 7, 19, 25, 31, 34, 35. 40 minutes,
Sorry, what
43
was it?
minutes,
31,
65 and
34,
80,
35.
31, 34, 35, three tries in 5 minutes.
Wow.
Wow.
So that
That
was Harry West, Keane Prendergast, and Matt Devine. Like, they
so,
were they were hammering them home and enjoying it. And like
it,
I
it
don't know that this is a game that they will necessarily take a lot from, but I think if all they take from it was they got a really big win and the fans who were there on the day probably enjoyed themselves, I think that's probably enough. I don't know that Connacht would expect to get a lot more from the Challenge Cup, given how some of their other results have gone. But this game, they went out and played fun rugby, and I think for what was in front of them, that is about as much as you could have hoped um, for from this game. As was said, Montauban are not a good team. They really aren't. They're like just a shade away from Pro League 2 level. Connacht had the bulk of possession was actually fairly even. It was 54-46. Connacht were just doing everything with theirs. So
I,
it's sorry, go on, Adam.
I was gonna say, is it like when you play a rugby video game and you score a lot and that 46% just comes from kicks?
Yeah,
Because
my first experience with this was playing FIFA World Cup 2002, and you would not believe how many times Ireland won that World Cup under my tutelage. So yeah, no,
yeah.
it was a very similar
When
experience.
I tell you I turned on
It's
Rugby 25 the other day on Monday for unrelated reasons, sent it to amateur and put Munster against the French team, and it was a score very like what Connacht did on Saturday.
But I feel like with what Connacht did was what like Connacht achieving what they should achieve in the Challenge Cup. I think we spoke about Challenge Cup really highly for Connacht this year. I think we said at least quarterfinals, possibly pushing semis. I think most of us said that. So for Lancaster to see this as a plan, do you know what I mean? I feel like if Irish teams take this seriously, not Munster, if Irish teams take this seriously, we should have a successful Challenge Cup because for Challenge like this is probably the only season where we're going to take Challenge Cup as seriously as we do because there's all of a sudden three Irish teams in it. We've never had that in the Challenge Cup before. But pedigree wise in the Challenge Cup, when you look at the past winners, it's all like a random assortment, and there's not a single standard, bar possibly the English, well, the English and the French teams, of course, but we need to be like there. Cardiff have won one. Cardiff have won one. Recently as well. That was the last time they were in Bilbao. Cardiff won it, and it's just
Cardiff
we
win it that
need.
year.
Yeah, it was Cardiff because Nick Williams lifted the trophy.
Oh, yes,
I
they
remember
did.
that. Yeah. But it was one of those where we need to have a stronghold in every single level. If we want Ireland to be successful, we need to have winners everywhere. Do you know what I mean? We need to dominate. Who knew? Who knew?
And like from a Connacht point POV, I suppose the only disappointing thing now is that Ospreys game. Where like if they'd held on there, they'd have got second seeds. They have a home run pretty much. I think they're going to be away in a quarterfinal should they get there. I think
I
as
Yeah.
think
third
it
seeds in their group.
depends on who they draw. I think the teams who drop down all are tiered lower than the teams
Yeah.
who were there from
We
the
are,
Yeah.
beginning.
and the
So
teams that drop down are unfortunately all away in the next round.
yeah,
If that's how it
Yeah,
plays out.
user always. So I remember this from when Ulster did it a couple of years ago. Every game is an away game. So
yeah,
you drop down to the lower four, and then you
Yeah,
are just there.
there needs to be a result for Munster to get a home. We'll come to Munster, but like just in terms of that Ospreys game, I'm sure Lancaster will sit there and say that was our toppling of this group
yeah,
gone out the window. And they should have really held on in that game. Like great result against Montauban, great result against Black Lion. Two games that you would expect any of the Irish provinces to win. Maybe not score 75 points. We tend not to do that.
yeah.
But if you're looking back, you're kind of like that. They should have held on there, should have got those 5 points.
Yeah, I think the frustration for Connacht will be that they won the games they were expected to win and didn't win the ones that they could have. And
Yeah.
I've a sneaking suspicion that when it comes to knockout rugby, that's not going to stand to their favor.
And like even only
Um,
lost by 2 points to Montpellier. I mean, you forget how close. Again, I saw
yeah,
none of that game because I was also in France, but I didn't
I,
realize it was actually that close a game.
yeah.
I mean,
And we've joked that they play a really good 60 minutes of rugby, and it's
yeah.
just a pity that there's 20 more minutes to go. And it's also like the levels in the Challenge Cup are different and the application levels are different. I'm like just after checking the pool tables because I remember this and they're a favorite team of mine. But above Connacht in that pool are Zebra. Zebra won 3 out of 4 games in this competition. So,
Yeah.
Challenge
that
Cup is
can be different.
wild, lads.
It is a wild competition. It's
It,
because it's the like we joke about Champions Cup and different teams having different application levels, but that's so much more amplified in the Challenge Cup, where
no,
yeah, a team like Montauban never going to give a crap about this competition because it's so much more important to them to desperately try and stay up in the top 14. versus say a Montpellier or an Ulster or a Benetton who'd be like, we could win this competition and European silverware is European silverware. You get a medal at the end.
Connacht have
So
the Sharks
I,
coming to the
yeah.
Dexcon.
Yeah,
yeah,
so that's a I would almost argue that the Sharks wouldn't send a full strength team there. I
And
think they
then
would
they'll be away to Montpellier.
yeah.
yeah.
But I think with the Challenge Cup is for teams for especially like Irish teams, and I would argue, well, for every team there that you would expect to be in the Champions Cup, I'm talking your Trevisos that you would expect, to be honest with you, would be in the Champions Cup. They've not lost a game, and you have your Montpelliers, Ulster, Munster, I would even argue Connacht and Exeter. You want those. I feel like it feels more everything's on us. And it's really like the pressure is on for those teams. And I think that's where the beauty of the Challenge Cup comes in this year, because you do have a range of, oh my God, what are they doing, their teams? Like
Like we're
there's
saying
a,
pressure, and I know they're not Irish, but the pressure on La Rochelle now is
oh yeah. It's
huge.
and it's whatever La Rochelle want to pull out there. It's
Yeah.
just there's multiple stories in this Challenge Cup, as it's the Champions Cup. I do feel like European rugby has had some type of revival from when we started this podcast, but that's just because of how mad the results have been in general.
Like,
It's just been bonkers.
and I'm sorry to interlink with the Connacht conversation, but like again, as David said, he was the only one who watched most of this game, unfortunately. But like Champions Cup this year, it's been so good. Sadness aside, like Leinster La Rochelle is one of the games of the tournament. Munster Toulon, the game we're going to get to shortly at the weekend from a neutral, I'm sure is an excellent game. From a tournament that I think if any of us had said pre-season that it's fine, we'll get to round of 16 and we'll see what happens from there. And that's kind of how I viewed it in recent years, as opposed to now when we're saying we now have we'll probably be the podcast that focuses on Challenge Cup more than any other one in Europe by the end of this season because we'll talk about it every week. But
Yeah, it's
it's
a very
nice it's
interesting one
nice to
because
see PCR come back to what it should be.
it is, and like, yeah, it's definitely been a running thing that the challenge or the Champions Cup doesn't start at around 16, and like that hasn't been the case this year, and that's kind of good. I was talking to someone today who said that the intention, at least at the moment, is to keep the format the same until
Yeah.
2030. Now I know not everyone is a huge fan of the format. I think there's a lot of people who still harken back to the old days. I will say there's a lot of nostalgia for the back-to-back games. I remember when we used to play 6 games a season, and I remember plenty of the fifth and sixth round games being complete dead rubbers where no one gave a shit what
Yeah.
happened.
Oh yeah.
So there is
You'd
a
have final
there is
games
a
in
bit
Thomond
of
Park
red
built
there
up
is a
with like
bit of
magic.
red tinted rose tinted looking back there. But we are where we are now. The schedule is what the schedule is. It's unlikely the French teams are going to shift to allow us to go back to where we were. My position on it would be that whatever it is, as long as it's not so broken as to be unmanageable, which I don't think it is, and consistently over the years, I think it's reasonable to say the best team has tended to win the competition, which is the ultimate goal.
Hmm.
Let it be. Let it sit for a while. Let emergent properties and emergent rivalries build out of it. Let teams figure out how they want to handle it. See how it is. Let it go for a while because I think the inclination to constantly chop and change, and this goes for both the rules of the competition and the rules of the game itself. I think it prevents people from adapting, giving them long enough to adapt to see how it can actually be when it's at its best. So, you know, I
Do we
think I
have to
think
keep it
that's a good
this
thing.
way for the world international thing that they're doing in
Yeah, I
I
like
don't
would
2
know.
say
years?
I would say this would probably fit in
I
quite
think
well to
this,
its.
yeah, this feeds
I think
into it,
it's
doesn't it?
It's like the
yeah.
group stage is like your qualifier, but then I
Yeah.
presume if they're doing it that way, we can't then do the home and aways and scrap down 16. That like we need to have that to get to where we're getting.
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
almost like when we spoke like when like a couple of years ago this whole thing about World Rugby having a world calendar appearing. This is a world calendar. We're living in it right now, and they're just starting to slowly say to us, this is what's going to happen. The Super Rugby is going to be here. Major League Rugby is going to be here. URC is going to be here. Champions Cup, Challenge Cup, internationals. I feel like that's what's going to happen, and we're going to see some type of. It's not going to be announced. I remember it was going to be announced, much to everyone just going like, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. But I feel like they're slowly putting in the seeds to be like, well, not slowly. Even we're having a new international tournament every 2 years, so it's going to be there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like for all the we can criticize what we can criticize what we're doing with the game. If we keep getting Champions Cups and Challenge Cups like we've had this season, and if we get a good whatever they call the thing in Qatar in a couple of years, Excellent. But give us the world calendar, give players weeks off, and give us exciting rugby every week, please.
But not in
Yeah,
Qatar. Somewhere
ideally,
accessible.
ideally somewhere else. Yeah,
Ah, you don't
I'll,
want in the
yeah.
glorious city of Riyadh or Jeddah?
I think that's the sponsorship money gone.
Yeah, chalk them off the calendar.
I told you I was
Um,
AI.
that's good stuff. That's well, I think that's the Connacht game pretty comprehensively covered there.
Ben
Um,
through AI powers chatting through
what more can we
Connacht.
say? Well done, Connacht.
Well,
It
well
was
done,
what
Colin
was
PA.
expected, but you did it, and sometimes that's all you can do. I'll be interested to see what comes out of the Connacht squad now in terms of the Six Nations because obviously Mac Hansen is unavailable. Keane Prendergast seems to be becoming a more consistent presence in the squad. It'd be interesting to see if that continues. Bundy Aki probably not exactly where he typically tends to be.
I would love
So
to
and
see Elo being a training panelist.
Oh,
Samuel as the training
please.
palace would be fantastic. He
Yes, it'd
has,
be
Eeyore,
phenomenal.
Eeyore,
talk about props
Eeyore.
coming through. That is a player who's just he plays with intent, like where he seems to both enjoy what he's doing and really give it socks and it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's apparent when you see a player doing that not everybody does do that. But
Hmm.
Samuel
He's
does do
also
it,
he's
and
so much bought into what Lancaster and Connacht want to do in that like
Yeah.
Lancaster even at Leinster the scrum was a weapon. And Elo was just cool. I'll be a missile. Tim, where you want me to go?
yeah.
He's so
Yeah.
good. I would love if he drove down. I can't remember the motorway, but come on, come down here, please. Like
Remember the motorway between.
I don't know what
This
it's
is
only a
how
motorway like
rarely he
half the
goes to
way.
Galway.
Yeah, I don't go to Galway all that often. Sorry, I didn't even go to Mayo last year, guys. I'm sorry. But briefly on Ireland camp, you would assume at this point that Connacht and Ulster are like position, 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 and on
Yeah,
form, Ulster should probably take one or two of those slots,
yeah,
and also from another province that I think we're going to get to in a moment. But
possibly. Yeah, no, it'll be an interesting one. And yeah, no, we'll just have to wait and see. There's some movement in Connacht's camps as well. For anyone who didn't see it, Joe Joyce will be leaving next season to go to Gloucester as well. So,
oh,
there's
Yeah,
some shifting around that one. That one's confirmed now. It's a pity. He's a good player. I think he had Irish aspirations at one point, but yeah, that'll
Joyce
be
and
some
Klein,
some
both at Gloucester.
yeah, along
That's
with
that's it. That's
nice
a
recruitment at this early.
Ross Byrne and Rob Russell as well. It's
oh
a real
no.
Irish cavalcade over there.
Who are they going to take from Ulster? That's going to be
No.
terrifying. We know.
Are
They're just
Gloucester going
building
to be
it.
that extra URC team? They're
They're
not going to
just
be
building
London
an
Irish, it's
Irish
going to be
squad. They're
Gloucester.
It's going to be
building an
London, yeah,
Irish
London
squad.
Irish, Gloucester Irish. Oh my goodness.
Gloucester Irish. Where have you been? But
I've got the kit. It's fine. I've got a Gloucester classic kit, so
Just
I'm
paint
here
a
to go.
tricolour across the back of it, and then you're good to go.
rock on. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we do have to move on, and what we have to move on to is not a happy topic for everyone involved, and that is the Munster and Cast Olympic game. Ben, how are we feeling?
Hello, friends. It's been a few days. Look, I'm going to be critical because I think I have to be after watching that 18 minutes of rugby. Before I am, credit needs to be given to Craig Casey. That man had his arm in a sling coming off the pitch in Toulon when he said hello to the fans, and he played 80 minutes of some of the best rugby he's played this season on Saturday, while occasionally popping back in his shoulder every time he ran, and he just kept going, and he scored two tries, controlled the game exceptionally well, did what you want Craig Casey to do. Edwin Dogbo came in and for me put up his hand to get him in that training panel that Andy's announcing tomorrow. Well, we're recording this on Tuesday, if anyone doesn't know. He was excellent. Really, really good. Get him beside Joe McCarthy in an Irish second row. I don't care how slow it is. I want to see it. I need to see it. And that is kind of sorry, Adam, go ahead.
I was going to say, get Cormac as a Chukwu in at six, and then you would have a faster. Like if you have that slow of a second row, you need that mobile, agile back row to be in there as well.
Just have him carry with a dog bone McCarthy on his shoulders all day long. Yes, please give me it. It'd be beautiful. But look, we do as we said, Munster did not win this game. Munster are now out of the Champions Cup, drop into the Challenge Cup. With that comes a number of negatives out of that performance, I think are easy to say. I was saying pre-recording, Munster had an incredible off-ball game against Leinster, where they played tremendous rugby, kicked it away, did everything you want them to do. We then tried to do on-ball in Thomond Park in the second half against Stormers for most of the Connacht game, most of the Gloucester game, and again on Saturday, we did on ball against the cast team who did not want the ball, who were happy to let us go make a mistake, and punished what has been an incredibly fragile set piece, line out and scrum, um, to incredible effect. Our carrying looked awful, if I'm being brutally honest about it. There was a play mid second half before Cast got their try when it went Casey, Tyke Byrne. Crowley's running on the inside of him, and instead of giving it to Crowley, Tyke gives it to Gavin Coombs, gets hit by four men in a turnover. And like there's this basic levels of look up, play heads up rugby. This is a very good Cast team. They've come fully loaded. It's their top 14 and team that played bat. They only need a single win to get into the next round of the Champions Cup, and Munster played in their hands for 80 minutes. I hated every single piece of that game. It was the it was everything I've complained about Munster, and everything I think four of us have complained about Munster this season, where we look really good in patches, look excellent with ball in hand, and then we go and do something silly. And the reward for it, unfortunately, the reward for it's an away game to Exeter looks like it's going to be Saturday morning at the crack of dawn because it has to be shown on TV because it's Munster. But again, we can't look. I can't have any overly complaints. You deserve in this competition. McMillan has a lot of work to do to pick the lads up for a very tough game against Dragons on Friday, and then Glasgow, and then thankfully a break. But yeah, it was awful. I can't even say Munster players deserve to get into Six Nations squad except for Edwin Dogbo and Craig Casey.
Wow.
Let's see what happens.
Do you think, Ben, and I don't want to be overly charitable because it'll come across as disingenuous, but do you think, in a way, Munster made a rod for their own back? Like they had, this is obviously Clayton McMillan's first season in. It's a big job in both the sense of the history of the club, but also the weight of the personalities involved, the weight of what's gone before him. It's there's a lot to manage there. This isn't just show up and coach these 23 lads. There's a lot to managing Munster rugby that goes beyond
There's an
just
awful lot to
rugby.
manage, and also I think it
And
isn't being said enough this season. We've had big players leave as well in the past
yeah,
season. Like you talk about Palm and Earlsey, fine, but like Stephen Archer was a stalwart in the in the Munster team for
Mhm.
how many years?
yeah,
He
yeah,
dominated that scrum for close to a decade. Now gone. There's a hole to fill, and like we're seeing, or I'm noticing, we're not playing as well at home. It's almost as if I think you're right. They've made her off their own back. There's extra pressure. I think McMillan is almost trying to say, Thom Park's important. Let's make it a fortress again.
yeah,
And we're performing well-ish away from home, whereas in Thom Park, they almost seem scared to try it. We won't go off ball at home because we think we have to play
yeah,
rugby.
yeah,
And I don't know how you fix it. I genuinely
yeah,
don't. They're a good team. It'll come. It's just right now it feels a long way back.
yeah.
Um,
It was
Yeah, see that is the thing I feel as well about Munster. In a way, it's an inverse to Leinster season. We'll come to Leinster later. That Munster had this incredibly strong start to the season, and they looked very dominant. Even if not all of their games were winning dominant, the fact that they'd won those five games on the trot, they'd put Leinster to the sword pretty much in Croke Park. Um, this it felt like it was there for. There was talk about even in the Champions Cup that
there was that
this was
excellent
something
40
they could
minutes
do.
against Stormers as well, where like
You know.
everything clicked.
They've had these great moments, and it's almost like if the flip is Leinster's three losses out of four at the start felt like cataclysmic. If those games had been spread out more, their seeding position in the URC would be better, but it might feel like more of a what it is, which is a mixed season. Whereas it feels very photo negative. They had five good weeks and then five or however
And
long
like,
many
uh,
bad weeks.
whereas Leinster's bad weeks came at a fairly inconsequential part of the season, I think we can say. Like losing in South Africa game one and
Yeah.
two, it's annoying. We complained about it, but then the season got rolling and Leinster turned to Leinster. Munster's blip, and I hope that's all it is, has come right in the European window and right when the Interpros kick in.
Yeah.
it's so like Ulster last season though.
Yeah,
It's so like Ulster. Like when you look at the comparison between Munster season this season and Ulster season last season, you look at Ulster only having one win in the European Cup, going down to the Challenge Cup. We only had two. Like you've done better in Interpros already because you already beat Leinster, but we only beat Connacht last season. So it's like things like that where when you have a new coach come in and I don't think McMillan has brought most of his coaching setup into it.
No,
I
he
feel like
kept two from last year, and he came in as head coach, and he
s-
brought in S&C and stuff. But it's
s-
McMillan plus now.
it, it, it's that. So like it's it's him bringing in trusted coach. Like it's a bit of a cliche in sport where it's more a cliche in football than it is in rugby, I'd argue, because you have football managers, and to cut like to make a brief comparison, that bring their coaches everywhere they go. And I
Yeah,
think for Ulster, for me, for the first time seeing in rugby, I've seen for the first time, and I can't really name you a time where it's ever happened where a coach just went in and went, "This is what I want. I'm gonna have one guy stay, and I want a full. This is what I want from a coaching setup." And I feel like for Irish coaches and for the likes of Lancaster, Leinster always are gonna have a nice coaching ticket, whatever happens. But with like Munster as well, I reckon you need to bank on getting those other coaches as well as the head coach, because it's all
yeah.
well and good having a flashy name head coach, but if your defensive coach isn't going to act, if your attack coach is going to act, or if there's something that's weak, not necessarily weak, but if there's something that's not working in that team, I almost think that RFU also have to look at those as well, which I feel like it's happening because look at Ulster at the minute.
I think that's a little bit of what is happening is that you can see when Munster's game plan from last year starts coming back in and tries to gel at what McMillan's trying to do,
Mhm.
and you end up with things like in Ravenhill is probably the big example at this point, where our goal line defense is really good. Our in 22 isn't bad. Everything in that block, everything from 22 to 22 doesn't work and looks a little bit disjointed.
Mhm.
And like we tried to play on ball against Cast. We had ton of possession, tons of rocks, loads of territory, but it was, in my opinion, the wrong strategy for a Cast team who came and said, that's fine. We'll just wait for the mistake to come. Whereas if you kicked them all day long, I know our lineout hasn't been good, but why are you trying to play into a team who are happy to sit back and say, that's fine. We'll wait for the try. And like Cass got a BP in Tobin Park. It's not like they only got two tries and won by a point. They got a BP. I know Munster
Mhm.
scored five, but that four try bonus point for a French team in Tobin Park does not happen. Should not happen. Things,
Especially cast as well
especially
because
Cast.
it's because I think it's their first win in 8 attempts.
Yeah, oh, like
And
their fans were incredible. I say this
I
every week, but they were so good.
I feel like with cast as well, I think we mentioned on the podcast last week that it's like for every 5 games that cast play, it's against Munster
Yep.
in their history of European. Like that is
We got chatting to a fan of theirs
mental.
before the game who was just like, I have a Limerick routine now. I come here so often. I stay in this hotel, I go to this restaurant, I go to this pub.
I go
It's
to
just
this
like,
hotel. I go to the Burger King in the city centre. Then I
yeah.
go to Flannery's. Then I go back to the Burger King, free Wi-Fi. That's my Limerick routine anyway.
You know where to go when Ulster play Leinster lads. If you want to meet any of us, you go to the Burger King, you're bound to find Adam. It's fine.
Yeah, me scratching at the doors going, I need my Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
But,
no, it was
but no, it was
no, it was frustrating. I mean, but it always is when it comes down to that. And like I think the thing that'll gall Munster is it's the kind of game that Munster like to win. It's that, at the death, you you thought you
it,
were
it
going to do it, but now we're going to take it off you kind of a thing. And
that's exactly what it was. It felt like being, to use a colloquialism Twitter, it felt like we'd been Munstered a little bit, and then we did all the hard work, got back into the game, and then it was that Bart Simpson thing of you won't be needing this.
yeah,
Only it was the Champions Cup trophy being thrown away.
yeah.
But
Yeah, no, it's a tough one out, and it'll be interesting to see. I know we've had conversations about how many players make it in and out of squads. I'm always a believer in form as temporary, class as permanent, and um, I don't know. Sometimes I do think there's an overfocus in Irish rugby as well on. It's going to sound weird on form in that if I remember the Welsh, not that they should be used as standard bearers for how you should live your life, but um, that Alan Jones was playing
highly,
for Ospreys, sorry, Ospreys for years
Oh no.
and then would come in and win Grand Slams with Wales. So like,
yeah.
if Andy Farrell
Yeah.
is the coach that I think he is and I think he's shown he can be, then he should be looking at these players going, well, I'll get you back in and I'll get you back to work and you can get working for me. But
I
it is coming to a question time for some players to yeah, I mean, hopefully the ideal response I think for a Munster supporter would be that some of those players do go to Ireland camp. Ireland have a relatively decent Six Nations, and they come back going, yeah, let's play more
What,
like that.
while I
And
100% agree with you on that, I really want Tyke Byrne to have a week off. I know he
that's,
won't.
I
He's
mean, he could do
100% in the
with more.
squad, but
No, he's gonna rest when he's dead.
the
But
man's just
it's
taking yellow cards. We can have a rest at this point. He's just hitting
He,
nines. We can sit down for
he,
5 minutes.
it's the only way
he'd,
he
he'd be
gets out of play.
he'd be
Like,
skipping into the sighting commissioner. Please,
Yeah.
I've done
you could
something
you could see him
wrong. No,
walking
you
off in
haven't.
Toulon saying, "I didn't play the nine, I actually punched him. Please ban me." Thanks.
Yeah,
But
no,
like
it's
Oh
he
dear.
and you're right. I want certain players played their way back into the squad, but like, and there are certain players I think will get in. And Andy, as much as I criticize him, will give them a chance to show that look, you're being Irish camp now to see what you can do. Sorry, Adam. Go ahead.
I would rather, like, I'm much of the opinion, and I feel like if you've listened to me on other podcasts before, but at the start of Six Nations now, I'd rather take a third or a second, but play a nice an informed
Yep.
team. I'd rather that than die on our sword, because then that's what we're doing. If we if
Mm.
we pick if we pick on the stalwarts and we pick on the ones that have done it before, and they have done it before, and hands up, we've done well, but from our November internationals we died on our sword. We were
And
like,
like,
oh yeah, no, but like, look, we've got so and so and so
Yeah,
and so playing
and
still.
we have that Thomond Park game. We can give lads who want to be played into form a game to be played into form against what will be a
yeah,
difficult-ish England team. I'm similar to you. I'd like to see France at least go for lads who are playing well week in, week out right now. And then you've got 2 weeks to get back in. And Andy did it to a point in the autumns. He rotated enough. Like the New Zealand game, he didn't bring back everyone. And I'd
But
like to see us do the same again if possible.
yeah,
But like rewarding a player like Stuart McCloskey who was in form, and the likes of Paddy McCarthy who was also in form, it shows benefits. It shows benefits to the clubs as well. Like, I know that the age profile between them both is like large in rugby standards, but we see the benefits and we're reaping the reward from it.
Yeah,
But yeah, I feel like I'd rather see that than this. So I
yeah.
mean, like dying on our
And
sword.
and I think and I think and I think I might have said it at the time as well back in November that if you're going to hew to the we're always going to pick the same lads who we know are the best, quote unquote, best 15 have been historically, New Zealand tour, etc. lads, they have to win.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't do that and lose. If you do
Uh,
that and
yeah,
lose, it's gone. At
exactly.
least if
If
you
we
if you
double
if you
down
pick
and
on
pick guys
form
who
and
haven't
you and
played,
you maybe bring in guys like Paddy McCarthy, like Zach Ward, like
well,
maybe even a Jude Postlewaite, maybe someone like that. You can go, okay, look, it didn't go perfectly, but they came close, and we'll learn a lot from this. You can
it,
take that, but when you go in full metal jacket with what you've gone in with every time before, and then don't win, then that's you've kind of screwed
it
yourself both ways. So it's yeah, there's a risk there.
it's sort of the argument of like when Hugo Keenan gets back fit, and I know that he had like everyone. I saw this example online today that he had a sickness bug where he was viciously on the toilet apparently, and he lost 7 kilos, and he came back and he won a Lions tour. Like, he lost 7 kilos in that Lions tour and he still won. And he looked like he lost 7 kilos as well.
Yeah,
But it's that type of thing where he's coming back, he's going to be fit. We've seen this before. We've seen this with Tag Furlong, where they've just sort of walked into the squad. I feel like for Ireland's sake, we've got a couple of really good fullbacks. We've got a couple of really good fullbacks coming out of the woodworks as well. You know, I know I'm an Ulster fan, but Jacob Stockdale's seen form at fullback.
mm.
You know what I mean? Mike Laurie, I know he's been injured, but it's not really the point. But we've seen lots of these players performing well, and they should be rewarded, because I can't imagine being a player and if I was injured and I walked into an Ireland squad, which fair enough, Hugo Keenan is a very, very good player, and I'm not bashing Hugo Keenan, I'm just using him as an example. But if I was Jacob Stockdale and I didn't get, I think he is going to get picked tomorrow. But if I didn't get picked, I'd feel a bit disheartened. It's all about that certain mood. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
no, not one player is bigger than the whole team. I feel like that's the type of position that we
like
need to pick for Ireland
and like
right now,
you
especially.
bring Keenan into the squad. If Keenan can be fit game two, he's in the
Oh yeah,
squad. We're
he's
not for
in
a
the
Yeah.
second
squad.
saying before down below gets angry.
Oh
We're not
no,
for a
no, no.
second saying
He
don't pick
is
Hugo Keenan. We're not.
Yeah.
he is world class. Like,
But like
everyone would take him.
maybe play him in Thomond Park to get 18
to
minutes under
get
his
to get time.
belt.
Yeah, 100%.
Um,
That'd be the sensible option.
Especially if France, as it seems this evening, aren't going to pick Damien Penaud. I mean, or Gregory
Yeah,
Aldrich, seemingly, because it's great to be able to do that.
it's an insane position to be in. Yeah, no, it would be nice,
It's
and
mental.
also like for a player like Keenan as well. It's I think there's got to be an element of Jack Connan is definitely much more of a candidate for this, where you're not necessarily doing them a favor by picking them. Like
Mhm.
if it's
Yeah,
not a quarter
Yeah.
final of a World Cup, like Hugo
Oh yeah.
Keenan's done it
No.
all. It's not like he's
Yeah.
going to be. You know what I'd really like? I'd really like to play
it's
Italy
not like he's
one more
dreaming to
time.
play in Marseille.
You know, and
Like,
they all want to get
Yeah.
caps, and it's 100% like, every cap, every test cap is a big thing, and it does
100%.
matter. But I don't think it'd be the worst thing in the world if a player come back, even just for their own edification, can go, I know you're still the player that you always were, but why don't you go play? I don't know.
For
Ideally, if he
your
was fit, go play Edinburgh
yeah.
in the URC the round before
Yeah.
and if you go in there and you are the Hugo Keenan that you always were, then of course you can come back and
Yeah.
play. But maybe
I
if you need a week or two to get back into
yeah.
form, you can take that, and you're not, and
Mhm.
it takes some of the pressure off the players. You're less likely to, depending on the nature of the injury, you're less likely to have it recur instantly if you don't throw someone straight into the crucible of a France game.
Mhm.
I think, and particularly when
or
we're in a
just name
position,
another
as Adam
scenario.
said, where exactly, like particularly when you're in a situation as Adam described, where there are possible alternatives. And I think it's healthy. I think it's good for the player themselves, and I think it's healthy for everybody else competing to know that if you play well enough, there is a chance that it's
Yep.
not written in stone, that there aren't gilded names on the team sheet, and that it is possible. So
Also, David,
um,
before we go any further in the Ireland chat, do you want to tell us about how wonderful Leinster were on Saturday, please?
Yeah.
Leinster,
I'm just checking the timetable.
that's a good point, actually. Sorry, we got off on tangents there. Okay, we'll do this very quickly. I
Ireland
don't know if
tangents are
what
great, but it's a great way to go Ireland to
I
Leinster.
Yeah.
I don't know if wonderful is the word I would use. I was very happy to get the win. I think that um scoreline is unfairly representative of the game that was played. I think Bayonne played a very good game. I think they did a very good job of frustrating Leinster. I think there is an element where Leinster got unlucky, and there was a 2% kind of a gap where I was like, JJ Kenny should have caught that ball. Harry Byrne drops the ball just a little bit shorter for Tommy O'Brien. It bounces up
If
properly. He
Kenny
goes in.
catches that one, it's one of the tries of the season.
Yeah,
It's an excellent kick.
it's excellent stuff. Tom Clarkson, the problem with Tom Clarkson is he's a big man and the ball got stuck under him. So he didn't know whether to put it forward or backward, and then he got dragged across the line. I still don't think it was a penalty because it definitely wasn't double movement
No,
on his part, but it was a weird one. So there's like loads of little inches where Leinster could have been ahead. But credit to Bayonne, they frustrated Leinster for a lot of it. And going in at halftime, it was 10-3. And I was genuinely like, I don't know. Had such a high after the La Rochelle game that it was easier to forget how much of that game it didn't look like we were going to win. Um, so it's definitely a case of not all the problems are solved at Leicester, not by a long shot, but somehow we now find ourselves at the end of a Champions Cup run where we have got 4 wins from four. We're not quite top seeds, but we did top the pool, and we will
well, so
go
coming
into.
second has or second seeds has almost given you an easier run to the final now. Like
I
easy
mean, if
in
you look at the
quotation marks,
table,
but
there is one side of the table or one side of the draw you would not want to be on, and one side that you might feel a little bit more comfortable on.
one side is Bordeaux and
And
Toulouse, the other has Leinster.
it's Bordeaux, Toulouse, and
Which
Bath.
one? Which
You
one?
like
Which one has Glasgow though? Because I feel like
Leinster on the
Glasgow,
Glasgow side.
Leinster
but
and Glasgow are on one side, Bordeaux, Toulouse,
Glas
and Bath are on the other side.
Glasgow beat Toulouse and Saracens this year as well. Like
They
they are
did.
taking it's like that terrifyingly similar feel to it. But I must say that I would say that Leinster would comfortably beat them. I feel like I say this every week, and that Leinster know how to win games where they shouldn't look like they're winning. They are the kings of just making something out of nothing. And when they don't have a plan, when they fully believe it, something like Northampton happens when Northampton shocks them a bit. Whereas I feel like
Yeah.
Leinster were cool, calm, and collected. Not
Like,
necessarily throughout it, but like
Yeah.
I feel like that win was just because
I saw an
of
hour
how
of
they
their
were.
game on Saturday, and they were good for that hour. Bayonne just took the chances that came.
Yeah.
Leinster weren't bad by any stretch. Leinster played that against most teams. They get a similar result. They win handy. Bayonne are tough at home. Like I think that got lost in a couple of Irish media portions last week. Bayonne are very good at home. They don't lose at home all that often. Leinster's last 20 minutes was excellent. Got exactly what they needed to do, got over the line, and yeah, not exactly a hard. not a hard run by Leinster standards, certainly, to
Yeah,
Bilbao at this point.
yeah. And like the thing I will say is in our positive column is that it started to work now that Leinster are just playing the same game. They're refusing to adapt, and like there that can be a negative and that can be a positive. At least it shows that there is a plan. Whether or not it's being fully executed every single time is debatable, but they're not deviating, and there is something to be said for having your own game and playing your own game. And it's also worth remembering the last game Leinster lost was Croke Park. So they've managed to turn the season around impressively. It would be nice if they were doing it a little bit more tidily. I did say after the La Rochelle game that was the most fun I've had in the Aviva in a long time, but also I never wanted to happen again. So, but it's as long as they can keep winning games and dogfights, and you would have to hope that this kind of dogfighting will ultimately benefit them, because it's the inability to win games like this is what has cost Leinster in the past. So. A very, very tight one, and I'm sorry I let Tom get away from this, and we had to do this relatively fast. But yeah, look, it was an arm wrestle, but it was a great game, and like who knew Sam Prendergast could play 15?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
And
Well,
so, but apparently he can.
he might be 15 hours sick. We wouldn't know. Can I also
Um,
add like a little tidbit on Leinster this week? I know I saw today, and it's really, really cool in my opinion. They played Toulouse Academy, played Leinster Academy
yeah.
today.
yeah,
That is phenomenal in terms of experience for those players. Like I feel like Irish rugby needs to do more of that. I never even knew that that was a possibility when
And
you
have you
think about
seen the
it.
Leinster scrum in that
yeah,
Yeah.
game?
yeah.
Oh my God. And
I saw
yeah,
someone asked me, "Have you seen it?" And I thought, "Oh, this is going to be bad." And then I watched it, and it was very good.
I clicked it
But
expecting a hate watch, and I came out of it
Yeah.
being like, well, that's just kind of terrifying if they can go from the front row they have now to this.
you went
It
in,
was.
you went in having a hate watch, and you full out come out full on, come on, you boys in blue.
I was just like Rillivan reportering at him and he could scrum it, everything's fine. It was
But but
so good.
But the thing is, like we joke about Leinster, like it's so easy to joke about Leinster, but we have to say like that result in terms of Toulouse Academy v Leinster Academy, 28-24, two giants of European rugby going like, should we have an academy game against each other? That is the type of thing that will grow the game and ultimately will have Leinster and Toulouse in good running for many years to come. And that
Because
I
that's
wonder how
exactly what
that
all
all.
the rest of us need, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I feel like Munster Academy need to just play cast, like the full cast team.
No,
Just to be
never
like, this
again.
is what you're gonna get subjected to. This is what you're gonna get subject. You're gonna play the cast mini rugby team with your full 15 and be like, listen, kids, just want to see Thurman Park.
Just as they come up through the ranks, you'll be here every year. It's fine, get used to it.
It is absolutely crazy. But yeah, and I have heard apparently that that fixture is going to be repeated. So
Oh,
yeah,
Oh,
long may
excellent.
long may it
that is
continue.
so good for in terms of like just rugby in general, and I do really enjoy that happening because I saw it earlier on, and I was just like, this
Yeah,
is good. It's good for Irish rugby, never mind Leinster rugby as well.
it'll
Yeah,
be a good day.
yeah, it's
Um,
excellent. So, more of that, please and thank you.
it's fantastic stuff.
IRFU
Um,
slash Leinster
I
Parish.
think I think I promised that we would touch on Ireland squads at the end, but I think we've touched on them enough throughout the show. I think we've well and firmly wrapped it up. For anyone who doesn't know, the Ireland squad will be officially announced at 3 o'clock tomorrow. Tune in for that. If you want to have a bit of fun, check out the France squad when that gets named, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of people not in there that you would think would be. So that's an interesting one.
I'm
Um,
not in it, guys. So just
okay,
we're
Adam
we're
did
the
make
color of
it.
we're the color of
Yeah.
the French flags
Yeah,
actually on my screen.
The old
So
Achilles is acting up again, so Adam's going to miss out this time. The Irish under 20 squad was also announced for those interested there, so the next generation of Irish rugby
yes,
coming along there too. But I think we're going to have to wrap up there now because we've got yeah,
like and
there's more coming
subscribe.
later. So like and subscribe. Thank you for tuning in. I hope that this wasn't
I'm not
terrible
AI,
without
everything's
Caolan.
fine.
On the day that we
Ish.
needed him the most, in the absence of Caolan, Ben's connection has stayed solid the whole time,
This is
and
this
we
is
got a full Ben podcast. So
oh
enjoy
we
that.
mu we must congratulate our host in getting his masters as well. We
Oh,
Congratulations.
yes.
Yeah,
Congratulations, Caolan.
the reason Caelan
congratulations.
is not here is because he did get a master's from
He's
University of Limerick today. So
some
congratulations,
say
Caelan.
some say he might be scouting, but for what team? I'll leave that to the AI experts.
There you go, Caolan. You thought not being on the show would mean Adam wouldn't get digging? Not a chance, son. Not a chance. But folks, we are gonna leave it there. So from myself, from Adam, from Ben, this has been great, and we will see you next week. Have a great one. Goodbye.